I know I usually just like walk these into frame, but this case is huge and I'm not sure I can pick it up again. This is a viewer's broken gaming PC. This thing has been part swapped to the moon and back, and this owner still can't get the system to post. So we've got, we've got a tough one on our hands. And to add insult to injury here, this platform is pretty darn old. You can see there, this is an old EVGA motherboard. You've got RAM on both sides, so that means we're looking at something like a Core i7 4930K. He said it was a Core i7, but it's definitely not a modern one, just looking at the board here. Also, for some reason, the graphics card is way down here. The graphics card is actually pretty modern, an RTX 2070. Power supply looks like a 1300 watt, which is, that's beefy, from Antec. Definitely not really warranted for a system like this, but it is what it is. And, well, the build's also pretty dirty, but it's old, so what do you expect? With all that out of the way, let's get straight into the troubleshooting process, starting first with attempting to power this system on. Are you ready? You know what's coming. Stay with me.
Celebrating Intel Gamer Days, where you can find your favorite Intel-powered products at great prices for a limited time starting August 25th. Shop entry-level Intel Core i3 processors for budget-friendly gaming solutions, or step into the big leagues with Intel Core i7 and Core i9 SKUs like the 12700K and 12900K. You can find great hardware combos from HP, including the Victus 15 featuring an Intel Core i7 12700 and RTX 3060, as well as the Omen 45L, part of their premium gaming lineup, and packing an unlocked Intel Core i7 12700K and RTX 3060 with plenty of space for activities. Also, take up to 10% off select HP gaming products powered by Intel by using codes 5Gamer2022 and 10Gamer2022. Check the video description for more details.
Hey there, how you doing? My name's Greg, and this is Fix or Flop. For those who are new here, the premise is simple. If you have a broken gaming PC and you live in or around Orlando, Florida, I would like a chance to fix it for free. That's exactly what this viewer took us up on, and we're not going to charge him a dime, even if it means replacing parts. I can get a hold of a lot of stuff just because of the connections we have with vendors, thanks to the size of the channel, thanks to, honestly, the viewership that you guys have provided so consistently for so long. That is much appreciated. The reason why we can continue doing what we're doing is because of your viewership alone. We don't need a Patreon or any other donations on your side, just the viewership, and we'll take it from there. So thank you for that support. The only thing that I haven't really been able to replace consistently is the graphics card, and that's just because I have to dip into my own pocket to buy a lot of those. Even now, with the market cooling off, it's difficult to get allocations for even older cards. So that's the only thing that I hesitate to swap out, if indeed that is the problem. But pretty much everything else with the... I say that, this platform's also really freaking old. I don't have any replacement parts for the platform. So either we upgrade the platform entirely if something involving the platform is broken, or we have to go to eBay or search locally and try to find a replacement that way. So I'm not entirely sure what we're going to be doing. It really depends on what's broken. You can see just how dirty the build is. I think the white makes it look worse, but it's not one that I'm comfortable holding for a long amount of time. There's just, yeah, a lot of goo and hair and dust that's just collected. And you can see up top there, oh, that top fan is... that is caked. But we aren't tasked with deep cleaning it. That's a different series. We're just tasked with fixing it. We're going to try our best to take care of that here. We've got power connected at the rear, power supply switch in the on position. We've got the HDMI cable connected to our portable monitor. And let's see, where's the power button? Is it this one? No, that's reset. Oh, that was it. Yes. All right, so we do have power. Some power. Ooh, this thing is smelly. I'm gonna have to turn on my my air purifier. Oh, graphics card fan spinning. Ooh, we have multiple debug LEDs. So I know it's difficult to see. I can't get my camera fully under this because the graphics card is blocking half of this Dr. Debug, but the code that it's showing us is actually B7. The 7 is being blocked. So we're going to look up what B7 means. And after specifying EVGA, because some boards have different debug codes for some reason, error code B7 in this case looks like it points towards the DIMM sockets or the DIMMs themselves. That means the very first thing I'm going to do is power the system back off and remove each of these modules. I think this is DDR3. Pretty sure. Yep, DDR3. And we'll take out all 4 DIMMs and we'll just use a single module from my own stash that I know works. I've been saving this old school G-Skill Trident X kit for a rainy day. Looks like today is that day. I'm gonna make sure it is fully inserted and we'll give it a power on. Crossing everything I got that it's this simple. By the way, there are a few folks who seem to think that, well, I just like stretching these videos out for the sake of YouTube. Absolutely not the case. We have Fix or Flop videos in this very playlist that are only like 8-10 minutes long because there's nothing left to do. We diagnose it fairly quickly, although that doesn't usually end up being the case. Ooh, I'm hearing some beeps now. Not sure if those were post beeps or error beeps. I don't think we're gonna get a signal here. I think we already would have gotten it. Okay, let's try quickly clearing the CMOS just to get that out of the way. By the way, before I turn this off, you can see with Dr. Debug, the code keeps changing, and I think that's because that's not actually a code, that's the temperature of the CPU, possibly. 20s is pretty low, but sometimes what these debugs will do after the system post is that will switch to a temperature indicator. So I think the system believes it's good to go. We might have an issue with maybe the graphics card. I'm not sure at this point. But we'll clear the CMOS anyway, and we'll also move this graphics card to the uppermost full-length 16-lane slot because it shouldn't be down here. I'm not sure why it's down here. Unless you have clearance issues, it should be at the top one. I'm really hoping this 2070 is not to blame. That would not be something I could readily replace. Let's see, slide it into the top slot here. Maybe that was done for another reason. I'm not entirely sure, but we're gonna move it up here because that's where it traditionally goes, and we'll reconnect PCI supplemental power. And to clear the CMOS, it's as simple as holding down this red button at the back of the motherboard for about 10 to 20 seconds with the system fully powered off, and then we'll give this another shot. I really don't wanna have to buy another older motherboard from eBay to get a system to work. So I hear the click, the beep for a post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beeps. This is really odd. Now we're getting Dr. Debug code D6. Now I did just notice he has his hard drive LED wires connected to the power LED pins. Shouldn't be a huge issue, but these obviously aren't in the correct places. So we'll swap those. Power switch is in the correct place, and I'm assuming the one underneath that is the reset switch. So after doing a bit of research, it seems we have two different error codes happening simultaneously, and I'm not sure why we're seeing this inconsistency with this particular board, but what I've found is that if I place this graphics card in the uppermost 16-lane slot, the Dr. Debug sends a code D6. D6, if you look that up, for an EVGA board means that the board can't find graphics out, which means that the graphics card would have to be dead. However, I don't get that code if I have this card in any other slot other than the top one. I'm not sure what's going on there. The other thing that we're hearing when the system tries to boot is the 5 consecutive beeps. 5 beeps in a row, from what I could see, either means that there's a CMOS battery failure or some issue with the CMOS, or the CPU is nuked. Could be both. At this point, I wouldn't put it past this rig. So the easiest thing to check with regard to the 5 beeps would be the CMOS battery itself. We'll check voltage there. If we need to swap it out, we can. This is a pretty old platform, so it would be wise to upgrade it anyway. Voltage for the battery is correct. We're still going to swap it out, but if we need to swap the entire platform, I mean, this is kind of futile. I have disconnected literally everything non-vital here. All SATA cables disconnected, all the stuff at the bottom under the card. I've tried this card in so many different slots. There is an extra 8-pin up top, but I want to make it very clear that that's not a requirement for this board. Just running the first 8-pin is fine. That second one's there for supplemental power when doing extreme overclocking and this sort. So the fact that we're still getting 5 beeps, which means it can't detect the graphics card, and we're getting very inconsistent Dr. Debug codes. Sometimes it's D6, sometimes it's like 50. It's just a bunch of random ones. There's nothing consistent about it at all, so I can't at this point rely on it anymore. I really have no other way of narrowing down the board versus the CPU because I don't have replacements for either of these. The last thing I can check is the power supply. Although I don't think this is a power supply issue, we can at least rule it out. We can also rule the card out. I'll throw this into a different rig and make sure that it posts. And then at that point, we'll know we either need a new CPU or a new motherboard, maybe both. Oh my God, this is disgusting back here. Wow, this is in a worse state than I thought. So I was gonna disconnect the 24 pin, the 8 pin, connect those to my PSU tester. I really should take this outside. Oh boy, this thing is just a basket case. Testing the unit, everything looks to be pretty good with the exception of ripples. Those are pretty high. And you can see on the 5 volt and 3 volt lines, they're both barely passing, occasionally failing. So the spikes aren't nice, but otherwise it looks pretty decent. Nothing that would keep the system from posting or functioning properly at the onset. So here is where we stand. I am gonna remove the motherboard. I'm gonna check the socket. Bent pins, missing pins, you never know. The CPU is actually replaced, something I forgot about. The owner of this system, when I went to pick it up, actually gave me the CPU that was originally in here. He thought it was bad, so he swapped that himself. Now the chances of 2 different CPUs being bad at the exact same time, especially when you just bought the replacement, pretty slim. So I'm going to go into this assuming that the motherboard is the issue. That is what I will order for replacement if I need to. Because if we get the same symptoms with 2 different chips, I'm going to assume that the board is bad. There's nothing else I can do. I don't have my own working 4930K or generation CPU that would fit in that socket to test otherwise. So let's take the motherboard out and we'll just do a quick physical inspection, see if there are any obvious issues. Holy crap, look at how disgusting this is. Oh, that's just pure neglect. This hasn't been cleaned in several months, if not years. I wonder if the system was even used for this. It probably sat broken at this point. That's what I'm thinking, because how do you let this slide for so long? Jeez, and this CPU is just littered with thermal paste. This is way more than you need, folks. Holy cow, it's spilling over the edge in large quantities here. So yeah, CPU is a Core i7 4930K, as we were told. Oh, and oopsie, looks like this lever wasn't pushed all the way down and into place. That could have been bad. I don't think that was our underlying issue here, but yeah, you gotta make sure that you secure this correctly, like that. I mean, just look at the spillage here of this thermal paste. It is all over the sides of this socket. It's gonna be a pain in the butt to clean up, that's for sure.
2,000 years later.
I am so frustrated right now. You guys have no idea. This is just a huge headache, and it could have been prevented. So I'm gonna try my best to clean this up. It does look like there's spillage around the socket, not just in that area, but also over here. Looks like there's some debris in the socket. I don't see any missing pins or bent pins, so that's a good thing. But you can see even on the CPU side, which yeah, this is also still covered. Look at that. It's running over the underside of the chip. Like what's going on here? So now I'm just flooding the socket with isopropyl alcohol. I've got this brush here that I've been gently scrubbing over these pins. This would be a lot easier if this was a PGA socket, but it is what it is. And I'm just trying to get as much of this thermal paste dislodged. I'm not too worried about it getting, sinking down below the pins. That shouldn't be a problem. I just don't want any on top of the pins, interrupting contact. So I think it looks decent now. I'm gonna dry everything up with my electric duster, and I guess we'll swap back to his other CPU. It's the only thing I have here to test with, but I'm assuming we're gonna need to try a new motherboard. And if that is the case, I might just so that I can wash my hands clean of this one, I might just upgrade the platform entirely and call it a day. I really want to be done with this system at this point. It's it's very frustrating to work with. Very dirty, just wasn't cared for, and I still don't know if the motherboard swap will fix it, so we'll see.
Socket actually cleaned up surprisingly nice. I didn't expect that. We'll pull out the few bristles from the brush remaining in here, and then yeah, we'll swap over to the other chip. Now I could pull the trigger right now on an X79 motherboard along with an i7-3820, which would be nice to have an extra CPU on hand for testing if we ever come across another platform like this. But I'm going to again try the other CPU as well as the original one that was in the system, just because there might have been an issue with the socket just not being cleaned. Maybe thermal paste got in there when he was swapping them out himself. So just to rule out that. And yeah, if we don't get post with either of these, this board is gone.
2 hours later.
Well, some time has passed, and now I'm getting a pretty consistent Dr. Debug notification, code 19. Which has something to do with memory, I suppose. Swapping in both CPUs. I had the cooler on for both sets of runs. I've got my cheaper graphics card in here that I know works. I've tried multiple slots with the same DIMM, different DDR3 sticks. This board is just nuked, and I'm extremely confident that ordering a replacement X79 board would remedy the issue, and we'd get a post again. So that's what I'm gonna do. I don't know what else to do at this point. I don't want to upgrade him because what I would upgrade him to is AMD, and I don't want to swap his boot drive from an Intel system to an AMD system outright without taking some precautions. I'm not sure what is on those storage drives, and I want to treat it as though it's sensitive because I don't really know. So I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to order the X79 board I just showed you, and hopefully that fixes things. So we're gonna fast forward another few days. It's all on camera in one video, so that's cool. But for me, this is dragging out to a multi-day event. Here she is, folks. Our motherboard replacement. I don't even remember what I bought. I think it was an Asus board. It has blue accents. I couldn't find this exact board, this EVGA classified X79 on eBay. I think there actually might have been one, but it was like $220 or something stupid. I'm not going to spend that kind of money for an exact match. So this here should support the chip that he already has in here, the 4930K, and it looks like it has similar feature sets. So apart from the color, which again, I'm not going to pay a $100 premium to match the color here, this board should be apples to apples. If I can get this thing open. I also think this order came with a CPU, so we'll have an extra one on hand in case we ever deal with X79 again in this playlist. I'll have an extra chip to test with, so that's nice. It's nice that it's wrapped this way. It means it was packaged with care. What do we have here? Oh yeah, looking nice. So like I said, it's blue, not red, but other than that, pretty sweet. I'm literally just gonna drop his i7 in here very carefully. And this is the one that that was in his system when it showed up in the office. So I'm not changing anything here. I'm not using the second one. It's also sure to double check that this listing came with the original backplate. Some of these don't, so just keep an eye out. I'm pretty much just gonna go all in with this install. Gonna very carefully lock down the board. I'm pretty much going ham, just throwing everything in the case, because at this point, if it doesn't work, I'm at a loss. I'll probably just end up giving everything back to him. I've spent so much time on this as it is, and that would just mean that more than one thing is dead, because I'm fairly certain that the board, the original board, was fried. All right, and here we go. This is a moment of truth. I'm a bit nervous about this one because, well, anything could go wrong with this rig at this point. Come on. We've swapped literally everything. Unless this eBay motherboard is also dead, which... just... too old a platform to really do much else about it. I can't order brand new anymore. This platform is it's not very relevant anymore, so what parts we can get a hold of are usually secondhand, and I'm really let down by that. I was hoping that was gonna be it. It looks like, I mean, the damn thing looks like it's posting. Let me clear the CMOS real quick, and then I guess we'll swap CPUs. I noticed we get this hanging CPU LED. It just stays on. Nothing else happens. I don't see. There's a memory LED that stays completely off. Same for VGA. So I think it's stuck on CPU. It's possible that the CPU is also dead, which I suppose I shouldn't be surprised by the current state of this rig. So let's swap it for the other 4930K, and then if that doesn't work, we'll swap it for the other i7 I got with this motherboard from eBay.
A few moments later.
When you thought it couldn't get any more frustrating, I'm super annoyed with this system now. So here's where we stand. I have swapped both of our Core i7s, our 4930Ks. Both of those have not posted. Now, this motherboard did have a BIOS update that allowed it to work with 4th gen X variant chips, and I don't know if this motherboard has that BIOS update yet. I'm assuming it doesn't because we were hung on that CPU LED light there, so it noticed right away that the chip was a bit newer than the BIOS supported. No problem, we can swap in that 3820 or whatever it was that he gave us into here, which is what's in the rig now, and I've managed to get past the memory LED, which was the next step, so now it should be working, right? I mean, there are no other debug lights lit. The system should be posting, but obviously it's not. So the only other variable at this point that it could be is that. And I don't think this card's bad, but I feel inclined to check because this is just this is too fishy. I could probably get it to work, but I've spent hours on this. Like today alone, I spent another 4 or 5 hours on it the first day it showed up, and I'm just exhausted. I don't know what else it could be. I have run through everything I could think of. Everything. So let me tell you everything I did. I have tried all 3 CPUs. I have tried a different power supply. It's this thing right here. It's not connected anymore, but you get the idea. I've tried 3 different graphics cards, all of which I believe to be working. 2 I know are working, and his graphics card as well. I've tried multiple PCIe slots. I have tried... What else have I tried? Clearing the CMOS multiple times. I checked the voltage of the CMOS battery. I mean, I've disconnected everything except for the 24-pin, the 8-pin EPS in the case of using my my small and weak graphics card. I've tried a single DIMM in multiple slots from his set. I've tried a single DIMM in multiple slots from my own personal set that I know works. There are no other variables. I don't know what I'm missing here. I've just spent far too much time on this. And I'm at a total loss for why this is not working. I think that this eBay board is also toast. I don't know what else to blame. There's just nothing else I can do. I don't want to wait another week for another replacement to get here. It's just not worth it. And this is one of the risks of running an older setup. It's just having to wait for parts to come in. And those parts might not work because they're used. It's just the risk that we run. So for the first time in this playlist, I have legitimately no idea what's wrong. What a way to end the season. Man, that sucks. I feel like a loser because I can't figure this out. I don't know why it's not posting. Everything looks healthy. There are no debug LEDs lit anywhere. The checks run, the CPU's good, the DRAM's good. What's the next thing, right? VGA. Okay, so I tried multiple graphics cards. I tried multiple PCIe slots. I can't try integrated graphics. So what else am I supposed to do here? Everything else is detached from the rig. I don't know. So, on to another day then. It's actually been 2 days since the last clip you just saw. And I've been doing things off camera just so that I could devote 100% of my attention to this, trying to narrow down the issue. Essentially what I've done, I've taken another rig and I've used it sort of as a test bench, and I've individually swapped components from this one into that one to see at what point the system fails. And because I don't have, apart from the 2 X79 motherboards here, another platform to swap with it or to use in place of these 2 that I know works, the only time the system would fail to post was the moment that I swapped the platform itself. So the motherboard and any of the 3 CPUs. And I actually tried both motherboards, his X79 EVGA board with even his 3rd gen Core i7 HEDT, but still. And then also 4th gen. Both motherboards, I used multiple sets of DDR3 in various slots. I still could not get the system to post at all with either X79 motherboard in play. And so that's kind of led me to conclude that the board I bought on eBay is likely dead. I can't definitively say that because I just don't have another board to test with, and it could be just the CPUs, maybe all 3 CPUs are dead. I still can't say for certain that the motherboard is bricked, or the new one is. I reached out to the eBay seller, very cool person. He was, totally willing to take it back. I did ask him if he tested it out of the system before he packaged it. And he said that everything was working fine. He pulled it straight out of a working rig, and that was why I bought it. I just wanted to double check and make sure that there wasn't like a ton of time between when the system was last tested and when it was boxed up and shipped to me. And it doesn't seem like there would have been any issue there. And although he did say that he would happily refund, at this point, I think what I'm going to do is just leave that replacement board in here. And I'm just going to give everything back to the owner as is. So a small consolation, he'll get a new motherboard and a CPU to work around. But we obviously still can't get a post. So it's not a real fix. But I just don't want to go through the trouble of refunding and all that. I think that the seller is being honest. And again, I cannot say for certain that the board's dead. So it's kind of annoying that things worked out this way. And this, yes, is going to be a pretty big flop. One of the few, thankfully, that I can say we've had in this playlist, but certainly a flop nonetheless. And I'm pretty disappointed that we weren't able to fix it. I mean, we've gone through the trouble before of having to order replacement parts online, and I've usually been right when I've ordered those things because at that point we've narrowed everything else down and ruled all that stuff out. Here, I thought the motherboard was the issue. It probably still is, and we just happen to get another board with more issues. I don't know why we're not getting picture out, because it looks like the CPU debug LED, it checks for a second and then goes away, which is what it should do. It checks DRAM, then goes away. The next step in that process is the graphics card, and this 2070 works in the test rig that I assembled off camera. So I know it's not this card's fault. That said, I did drop some lower end cards, some older cards as well. Maybe there was a PCIe generation issue or something, and we still could not get picture out through whatever discrete card I put in here. There is no integrated graphics here, so it's not like I can wire directly into the motherboard. I tried an outright new power supply, of course, with the test rig, but also the one that you saw, the one we always use, the Nightjar fanless unit. Still couldn't get a picture, so I'm at a total loss. And at this point, if anyone watching this video thinks they know what this issue could be, I know when you ask the internet this question, they start throwing out a bunch of random stuff, but there might just be that one jewel of a comment that saves this person's rig. I might be grossly overlooking something. I checked The batteries on both motherboards, voltage is fine. Replaced them anyway, still fine. I checked the CMOS itself, cleared multiple times on both motherboards. Bypassed the power supply, like I said, entirely. Pins look fine in both sockets, even though his original EVGA board had some thermal paste and stuff in there. We cleaned it up really well. The new motherboard has a fine looking socket, no missing bent pins, anything like that. At this point, I would just recommend a platform upgrade entirely. I mean, that's the easy way to get out of this, is just to use this as motivation or just an incentive to upgrade to, say, AM4, even though AM4 is pretty much end of life at this point or getting close to it. It's still a very healthy, versatile platform. You don't have to start very big. You can start with, Zen 2, Zen Plus even, and work your way up. You can still work your way up to Zen 3, and it, even if you're a generation behind at that point, it's still an upgrade, and it's not going to cost as much out of pocket now for the owner to maybe swap to Zen Plus. You will need new RAM, DDR4 of course, and a new CPU. But you can get some pretty sweet used deals as well, so I would invite him to check those out. I've done what I can. I've spent way too much time on this, and I've got to move on to other things. So unfortunately, a flop. This has been very humbling. And again, I might be missing something very obvious, so if I am, just all caps it in the comments. Just scream it at me, and I'll be sure to relay that information over to the owner if anything relevant shows up down there. So thanks for watching this far into this one. I'm very sorry that I don't have better news. Say our track record is it's pretty good, but this is going to be a fairly decent blemish on it. So maybe I'll just steer clear of like older X79, X58 systems in the future. I don't know. I've never had great luck with these older HEDT platforms. I never have. Maybe this is just another lesson learned on my part. Thanks so much for watching. Again, comment down below, consider leaving a like, subscribing if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.